Hello, everyone. We wish you a very warm welcome. I am Dominique Méda from University Paris-Dauphine, speaking from Paris. It's a great pleasure to welcome you today as we gather to mark a very special milestone, the 5th anniversary of the release of our joint Democratizing Work Manifesto. We in the Democratizing Work core group want to begin by thanking each and every one of you for joining us for this celebration and reflection. Your presence here today speaks to the growing commitment around the world to rethink how we work, why we work, and what work should serve. Exactly 5 years ago today, in the middle of the first COVID lockdown, we released this op-ed, which became a manifesto, given the support it immediately gathered from across the 5 continents. It was signed by thousands of scholars from across the globe. The theme of today's event is Hope in Uncertain Times. It is a title that reflects both the challenges we face, economic, ecological, and democratic, and the strength we find in coming together to research and support humanity in building alternatives based on the 3 key historic principles of our manifesto highlights: democratizing work, decommodifying labor, and decarbonizing the planet. As you know, this initiative has been shaped by a core group of extraordinarily committed female scholars who have worked on and off through the years to support and develop this network. Here you see their names on the screen: Alissa Battistoni, Julie Battilana, Adèle Blackett, now on leave at ILO, Julia Cagé, Nira Shenhoke, Isabelle Ferreras, Lisa Herzog, Sarah Lafuente, Hélène Landemore, Flávia Maximo, myself, Dominique Méda, Imgekaya Sambangchi, and Pavlina Cherneva. Let me express our gratitude to all of them on your behalf. We would be nowhere without this extraordinarily committed group of women. Let me now ask Isabelle to walk us through the agenda for today.
Thank you so much, Dominique. So I'm Isabelle Ferreras, speaking to you from Brussels. Let me then go through the agenda with you. What we have prepared for today's anniversary meeting is first a look back at the 5 past years. So what are the milestones since this very day, May the 16th, 2020? Then in part 2, we are going to hear from some of the core group members about developments that have been happening and which paves the way forward. We think they are developments that really are encouraging, and we want to make sure everyone see them. Then in part 3, we are going to move into breakout sessions, because this anniversary meeting is really about hearing from you and getting together as a community, as a network, and give us the opportunity to exchange. So we are going to move into 6 breakout rooms, which means that we will be a manageable number in every room, and that we will focus on where we should move forward. In your view, what are your views about that? And more specifically, we're going also to ask you questions about the research needs and the infrastructure that we should continue to build. In the last part, then we will come back into the plenary And we really invite a spokesperson that will be chosen when you start in part 3 in the breakout room. A spokesperson will just share for 1 minute a few highlights coming from the discussion in the breakout room. We will close the meeting with more encouraging news, and that will be it for today, because the times are difficult on this planet, but it's more necessary than ever, and maybe than even 5 years ago, to really power these 3 principles. So thank you for being present. We are truly excited to be together today. Thank you for everyone for being part of this global effort. And let's move to this part 1 of the agenda. Part 1 on the agenda, looking back 5 years of democratizing work. So 5 years ago, as I said, we were in a very different situations. I think everyone remember that moment when some of us, we met online, and we were in the first lockdown of the COVID pandemic. The world was grappling with this first wave of COVID-19. It was an unprecedented disruption in the lives of so many that exposed and intensified long-standing inequalities in our societies and in our economies. It was in that context that we came together to publish the Democratizing Work Manifesto. It was not originally the idea to produce a manifesto, it was just an op-ed, but this really turned into a collective call grounded in the 3 core principles that our research suggested we would help address if societies could be able to practice them. We should democratize work if we want to recognize essential workers and their contribution. Is we should democratize firms. We should decommodify labor. That is the recognition that workers are indeed not commodities. They are not a mere human resource, so they should not be treated as a commodity. And we should take care of the planet. We should decarbonize the planet if we want a future for everyone on this planet. Since May the 16th, 2020, we have witnessed this network grow in many ways we could not have imagined. Across continents, disciplines, and sectors, individuals and organizations have taken up this call as a framework for research and action. Today, we want to take a moment to reflect on what we have achieved together. The milestones reached, the conversations sparked, and the communities built. This is also a time to look ahead, as we could do so much more. It is a time to ask ourselves how we can further strengthen the research ecosystem that supports these principles, and how we can act together to deepen their impact in the coming years to come. As the crises are just getting bigger at all levels, ecological, economic, and democratic, it's really time to look at this trajectory from over the past 5 years and think ahead. So now I invite Julie to join us to help us look at the past.
Thank you, Isabelle. I am Julie Battilana, and I'm delighted to join you today from Boston. So it's my pleasure to give you an overview of what has happened over the past 5 years. Over that time, the Democratizing Work initiative has evolved from an initial op-ed, as Isabelle reminded us, into a set of concrete scholarly works and public interventions. So building on the original op-ed, which laid out the core principles of democratizing, decommodifying, and decarbonizing work, the core group has developed a more comprehensive book-length treatment of these ideas, building on our research across fields of social sciences. This led us to publishing the book Le Manifeste Travail in French in October 2020, The book provides both deeper theoretical grounding and more extensive empirical illustrations of the three core principles. It was subsequently translated, that book, and adapted into several other languages, including Portuguese, Italian, Dutch, and English. It's important to note that each of the translations actually involves substantive adaptations that engage national debates, differences in legal frameworks, and historical trajectories of labor relations across the different contexts that we discuss in the books. In 2021, as a number of you, I'm sure, remember, because I see you in and your names here in this virtual room, and I know many of you actually participated. In 2021, we organized a global forum on democratizing work that brought together more than 3,000 participants from 85 countries over the course of 3 days. The forum was designed to foster interdisciplinary dialogue and comparative analysis of the three core principles. It actually also laid the groundwork for a series of regional workshops that we organized over the past 4 years to examine how the initiative's core principles translate into diverse institutional and cultural settings. In the fall of 2022, we also initiated the Democratizing Work Global Workshop Series, which has been running for the past 3 years now, first with the support of the Economic Democracy Institute at Bard College, and then co-organized with the Wage Indicator Foundation for the last 2 years. The goal here is to provide a venue for scholars and practitioners to discuss the developments and the challenges that they face in studying the three core principles and in putting them into practice. All the workshops, as I think many of you know, are recorded, and you can find them on the website of the Democratizing Work Initiative if you're interested in learning more about them and haven't had a chance yet to attend some of those seminars. Let me now turn to another milestone, which is a really important one. This year, the Spanish government appointed an international expert commission on democracy at work. The commission, that is led by Isabelle Ferreras, was tasked with examining how Article 129 of the Spanish Constitution, which calls for the promotion of workers' access to voice, participation, and ownership in firms, might be implemented in practice. Although this constitutional provision had long remained dormant, the creation of the Commission signals real renewed political and institutional interest in questions of economic democracy. The Spanish government has specifically sought the Commission's advice on how not to treat democratizing work merely as a normative ideal, but as a viable constitutional and economic project. So this constitutes a major breakthrough in the democratizing work trajectory, and I am honored to be one of the experts participating in that commission. Last but not least, this year the University of Lille became the first university to establish a chair on the three core principles and the commons. And we should also let you know that next October, 2 new editions of our book on democratizing work will be released. One in German, one in Turkish, and again, both of those versions have significant developments and adaptations related to the German context and to the Turkish context. So as you can see, taken together, these developments illustrate how the Democratizing Work Initiative has contributed to generating new lines for academic inquiry and research, informed debates across national and disciplinary boundaries, and how it has also intersected with emerging public policy efforts to revisit the governance of work. So now it's my pleasure to turn back to Isabelle to facilitate the next portion of the meeting. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Julie. So now we are moving into part 2, truly about hope in uncertain times. So as you know, we have been working with a core group of female scholars to support this network. Dominique gave us the list earlier. And now what we are going to do is to highlight a few recent developments currently powering the 3 principles of the manifesto. So we are going to hear in this part from Flávia, who is going to speak about the dynamics at the level of the national chapters of Democratizing Works, from Pavlina about developments around the job guarantee, from Hélène about promising experimentation with large-scale worker participation, from Sarah about the dynamics in Spain, and from Julie about the building of the research needed to help organizations measure their progress toward democratizing work. So let's now hear about these inspiring developments. Flavia, this is your turn.
Hello, everyone. Hi, bom dia do Brasil. I am Flávia Maximo. I'm speaking from Brazil, in Ouro Preto. Our three principles bring together many global aspirations and hopes in the world of work, but they have not a universal meaning. After all, no knowledge production is universal, as it always requires to be situated in a context. In this sense, each country must situate its initiatives to decommodify work, democratize companies, and decarbonize the planet, according to the specifics of its realities. With this in mind, we are very happy that several countries, at the initiative of groups forming our virtual meetings, have translated the book produced from the Manifesto into a book that incorporated additional chapters written by local authors. Examples of active groups that have launched books are the Netherlands, Italy, and Brazil. The Brazilian Manifesto book featuring only female authors who, from a decolonial feminist perspective, situate the three principles in the face of the realities of the global South, that is, inequalities inherent of racial colonial capitalism and informality. Other groups have continued to organize meetings on and off, like India or Chile, while some launch expanded initiatives and research hubs, like France or the United Kingdom, serving as bridges for dialogue between unions, academics, progressive business leaders, cooperative companies, environmental and human rights activists, government, and civil society organizations. We're here because we're very grateful to all the people involved with these national chapters. We're grateful for all your efforts to make this three principle discussed and alive in your context. This gives us this true meaning to our global network. We hope to see this dynamic getting strengthened in the coming months and years. Please let us know how it could help. To Pavlina now.
Okay, hello everyone. It's a pleasure to be here. My name is Pabina Cherera, and I'm joining you from the Levy Economics Institute at Bard College in the United States. I'm very happy to share with you some developments over the last few years around the second pillar of our Democratizing Work Manifesto, Decommodifying Labor. And those developments around research, real-world experimentations, and policy initiatives. A significant milestone was our collaboration with the UN rapporteur on a research report on the job guarantee. We additionally co-authored a proposal for Europe with a member of European Parliament, and this work in turn informed a European Parliament resolution affirming the role of the job guarantee in the just transition. Subsequently, the European Social Fund appropriated a small budget to seed various job guarantee pilots in Europe. Now, you're aware of the French Zero Long-Term Unemployment Areas project, which has been growing over the time, and it has quickly emerged as the model design for a job guarantee in Europe. At the moment, there are colleagues in Italy who are actively organizing and working on launching a similar pilot there. And as you know, in the middle of the pandemic, the Austrian job guarantee pilot in Marienthal was launched, and the studies have yielded some very positive results. Now, meanwhile, in the United States, we've worked on drafting job guarantee resolution as well as draft legislation on piloting and funding the job guarantee. There's also work at the local level, and one example would be the Cleveland Universal Basic Employment Program, which is in its planning stages. And finally, in July this year, the flagship annual event of the International Labour Organization has made the job guarantee a central theme for the conference. The program will be featured in a special panel as well as in the final plenary. All of these updates and more you can find in a resource tool that we built over the last few years. We can drop it in the chat, but that is jobguarantee.org. which includes policy papers, sentiment surveys, a global map of job guarantee pilots and programs, as well as a very extensive bibliography, including an extensive bibliography on perhaps the most and the largest scale and significant pilot in India, the Rural Employment Guarantee Program there. So we look forward to joining forces with anyone interested in contributing to this work. And now on to you, Hélène.
Hi everyone, I'm Hélène Landemore and I'm very happy to be joining you from the US. I'm based in New Haven. I am here to report on a few developments in the space at the intersection of AI and workplace democracy or participation at least. Basically, artificial intelligence makes it possible now to consider improve on consultation methods that companies used to resort to, like, ID boxes or polling. Now there's a way that LLMs can facilitate access to various stakeholders, centrally workers, and allow companies to get a sense of what the public, their demos is at on, for example, company values, satisfaction, etc. So recently a French company named Make.org has sort of developed processes based on AI to facilitate very large scale consultation within companies. So they've developed that in a couple of prominent French companies. We are monitoring this closely. It's not clear where it's going exactly, but it has the potential to increase the voice of workers. And so we hope that this is where it's going to go. Documented these AI-mediated consultations and deliberations is also interesting because it would help solve a problem that political theorists call the connection between the mini publics, small-scale deliberative forums, and the maxi public, which exist also within companies. And so we are looking at this in the hope that it can be a benefit for both the democratic sphere at large and the sort of smaller democratic publics of companies. Of course, there are issues, attached to these new developments that we all fear, like surveillance, increased worker alienation, participation washing as well, if these tools are just used to make companies look good but don't really fundamentally change the power balance within the structures. But it depends on what people push for, and so we want to be in that space and report on what's going on. All right, that's it for me. Sarah, let's hear from you.
Thank you very much, Hélène. Hello everyone. I'm Sarah Lafuente, joining you from Brussels. And one of the promising developments I wanted to share with you today is what's happening at policy level in Spain. So Julie already introduced a bit of that, but the fact is the current coalition government between the Socialist Party and Sumar, which is another party, has been engaging actually quite a lot with the three principles of the Manifesto, so in quite innovative ways as well, as for example, by adopting a law on working time reduction quite recently, or also introducing climate permits, which is quite an innovative way of tackling this issue of climate change in the area of work. And one of their highlights has been their commitment with the principle of democratizing work, based on that article of the Constitution Julie already mentioned, from which they want to develop basically worker participation in legislation, but going much further than mere information and consultation rights for workers, and even beyond ownership rights in cooperative firms. So the goal is actually to reform capitalist enterprises in the current legislature. And I think it has to be said that a few years ago, this was unthinkable, and workplace democracy was completely out of the radar and the Spanish debate. Despite some, experiences of trade union participation in company boards in public sector companies, but these experiences were very scattered, not follow up, and not supported by legislation. And now today this has changed, thanks to the work of some organizations that have kept this topic alive for years, even if it was not on the agenda as such. And then the Ministry of Labor, who's, Vice President of the government, Yolanda Díaz, who placed this question of worker participation and democracy at work on top of the agenda since the Spanish European presidency. And now, as Julie pointed out, she has appointed an experts committee on democracy at work, which is composed by several experts, international and Spanish, and some of us here in the room are part of this, presided by Isabelle particularly. And the goal of this committee is to submit a report in September, which will first make a diagnosis and build sound argumentations around why and how more democracy at work can contribute to solve the different types of crises we are embedded in Spain, and not only, of course, and in other societies as well. And secondly, to propose very concrete solutions on how to intervene in policy and legislation from a progressive point of view. So the report will be first the basis of a tripartite social dialogue and negotiations between the ministry and social partners, but it also aims to trigger social mobilization around this issue in Spain, and potentially also inspire others, that would like to establish similar initiatives in their own local levels. So it's a step in a longer process, but the message is definitely of hope, and that's why I thought it was important to share it here. That's it on my end. So now we turn to Julie, who has something very enthusiastic to share as well.
Thank you, Sarah. As you know, highlighted by all the reporting we've been doing this today for all of you, developing and supporting research infrastructure will be absolutely critical when it comes to being able to move forward with democratizing work. And so specifically, this research infrastructure must account for how organizations are managing work internally, so that those organizations that want to move forward with deepening democracy at work can more easily measure their progress. And so I'm very happy to report that with that goal in mind, under Isabelle's and Dominique's leadership, we've managed to set up a PhD fellowship devoted to this mission. Based at University Paris-Dauphine, this collaborative project seeks to build a prototype of an index that could complement existing metrics like ESG criteria by adding consideration for the dimension of internal democracy. We envision that the Index of Democracy in Organizations, IDO, or Internal Democracy Index, will be a tool that will enable us to measure democracy within organizations, evaluating their democratic state regardless of structure, sector, or location. The development of such an index would help complement current extra financial reporting measures in order to enable societies and organizations to move more easily towards a more sustainable future. Powered by an advisory committee of both union representatives and employers, we hired a PhD student, Thibaut Crismer, who's with us today, and began our research in organizations in France, thanks to a funding opportunity provided by Adaptations, a democratically governed consulting firm in the field of the social economy. The ultimate goal is to produce an index that will be relevant across different kinds of industries, economic context, and that will serve as a compass for guiding future organizational decisions. So please stay tuned. We will make sure to keep you posted on our efforts and our progress when it comes to improving the prototype and deploying it globally. Isabelle, back to you.
Thank you, Julie. Thank you so much for all these inspiring, indeed, developments. Well, of course, we all know that the current obstacles are, to the three principles are momentous. We see labor rights under attack around the globe with an unprecedented level of strength in some societies. We see political democracy altogether in retreat. So this is really a moment of threat. And our conviction is that it's a time to more than ever consider what these principles are going to bring to societies. So we need to amplify our ability to support these actors who are already practicing the three principles, but who are struggling to move the world into this direction. So what's next for us as a global network? This is really the question that we want to discuss with you today. So we are moving in part 3, strategizing the way forward with you and thanks to you. So what we are going to do now is basically to ask you the question, first to hear from you and to ask your views about how this network can support the research needed to uphold the 3 core principles of the Democratizing Work Manifesto. Where do you think we stand, and where should we go? What should be our priorities? We hope to discuss with you about not only the network globally, but also about specific actions that you think you could take or you could lead in the specific context in which you stand, and where the mobilization of the network could actually be of support. So the goal of these discussions that we are going to have is really to take the time to identify priorities, actions, truly, identify what would be the shared resources that we would need for this network to work better, what we should be looking at in the next few months, so that in the next few years we can go for a very strong next 5 years again. So let me explain to you how we're going to do this. Okay, so how do we do it? So now we're going to spend basically 40 minutes in breakout sessions. In those breakout sessions, you will be assigned randomly, so no stress, you should not do anything. You are going to be smoothly landing into a breakout room where you will meet your randomly assigned moderator. So each room will have a chair, and each room will have access to a shared Google document. Please try to input the document which has the number of your breakout room. So each breakout room has a number, and there are documents on that linked that you are going to receive and that we can paste in the chat so that you can already copy it. You will see that there are documents for each numbered room. Each room, as you start, thanks to your moderator, will start with identifying a note taker and a spokesperson. These are the 2 responsibilities that we would like to see every room to assign. The note taker will quite obviously take notes, as many notes as possible, so that we really can reflect back on all those discussions as a core group. So please for the person who is willing to volunteer for that position, please try to really take as much input from the discussion and put that into the document so that we can really basically go through these documents as having been in the room, each and every one of us. And the second function to be assigned is the spokesperson. You will choose one spokesperson who volunteer to basically report back in the plenary a few highlights that will come out of the discussion. Because we'll have the time to discuss during those 40 minutes, you can very well, after 30 minutes, you can wrap up by just trying to maybe identify what are the key sort of points that you want to bring back to the plenary and assign that mission to the spokesperson, or you can let the spokesperson to do the job of highlighting a few key ideas. But we will have time to really have a very nice discussion where everyone will have like 2 minutes to start with so that we can hear from you, know what's your assessment of where we find ourselves and where we could do next, where we could go next, and what we should do. And then we'll take the time for a discussion. Okay, I think this is it in terms of process. So now it's 40. We are going to be randomly assigned, and we will reconvene at 15 past the hour on most time zones except Delhi. So that will be, you will be informed because there will be a pop-up very efficiently shared by Shantanu 5 minutes before the closing. Okay? Have a very good discussion and we'll reconvene in plenary after this. Okay, so let's give everyone a minute to reconvene. We had a very interesting discussion. It was very, very nice to be in a small size setting and able to interact directly. So let's just wait for a few more seconds. I think the rooms will be closed like automatically in a few seconds.
Yeah, I think most people are back. I think the
Okay.
room.
It was too short, though. It was too short.
Yes, of course. It was too short, but extremely insightful. So now what we are going to do is for each of these 6 rooms, we are going to hear from the spokesperson for 1 minute. So I'm going to be very very hard on this one. I will let you know that you really are at the end of your minute because we need to close on time. Maybe Lee, we could stop sharing the screen so that we will see everyone. And if you're welcome to open up your camera so we can see each other. That's very nice. So for room 1, who's the spokesperson? So and you should just turn on your mic, obviously. Room 1. Do we have a spokesperson? Or do we have a chair? Or
No, yes, we do have a spokesperson. We were room 1, so
have it. Okay. So where is the spokesperson now?
Hello.
Let's Hardik?
Yes, I'm a spokesperson.
Ah, wonderful. Yes, we can see
Sorry,
you.
I did not know the number. Which
Yes.
one is the room
no,
number 1?
I didn't
Yes.
say. I'm sorry, it was my fault.
Yeah. No problem. So Hardik, to you now for 1 minute. What were the key highlights?
We were the 4 people, and 2 from India, 2 from India and Brazil, and 2 from UK and Japan. So a diverse sort of discussion happened, like formal economies like Japan and UK and more informal worker participation, informal economy like India and Brazil. We talked about the gig worker and their social security rights in India, mobilization of gig workers, the strategies, the strengths, and also some of the challenges. We have discussed the Gig Worker Social Security Act, which was one of its kind, which was passed in India. And I've been part of some of the mobilization and delegation work with the government and with the unions in India. So I've shared those ideas. There were also some ideas about top-down mobilization for democratic innovation from a friend from Japan, Toyota. We said that maybe in companies, democratic innovation to provide more labor rights, social security, and to push the principle of decarbonize uh, by the top management authorities in the company by let's say adhering to some of the international labor rights laws, ILO principles and guidelines. It's something like that we have discussed.
Thank you, Hardik. Yes, thank you so much. Very interesting. We look forward to read the whole notes taken during your discussion. It seems to be very, very interesting. Now let's hear from room 2.
Yes, so I'm Thibaut Crismer. I'm the moderator, the last minute moderator for the room 2 and the last minute spokesperson. Nice to meet you. In this session, we talked about different things, but one of the priority actions that we could develop at the level of this network is that we need a stronger connection between the different national chapters, and we need tools to connect as deeply as well as frequently inside our network and between the national chapters. So maybe an ongoing channel to share research within our group would be very welcome. We also discussed the use of AI, first as a leverage for organization to develop democratic practices, but for research as well, for instance, to uncover democratic traces in organizational practices. And in the end, we think that this group could be a resource for real-world organizations that are seeking to democratize. And this would be possible by developing tools that we could share with organizations for them to organize democratically, but in an open access way, if possible, because that would be the most interesting.
Thank you, Thibaut. Super interesting. Group 3.
Hello. So in group 3, we were from Brazil, Germany, France, but also lived in the US, in the UK, and in Canada. So we were like sort of very diverse. We talked about how universal income could help our case to guarantee that people have like a minimal basic essential for everything. And this way, work would be more democratic, let's say. We also spoke about the importance of sharing positive stories, positive cases that we could use to try to build a case of how things could improve. We spoke about how the network could serve as an inspiration for other scholars, sharing those stories, but also inspiring in general to have people thinking similarly. And finally, we spoke about the idea of creating profiles of the members of the Democratizing network to show what we are doing, who we are, and maybe if we are available to give advice, what kind of advice and support we can give, and more opportunities to connect our research. So maybe if we need a researcher who has such skills to work on such data, we could very well connect online with people from all over the world, and maybe even invite each other for speaking and conferences or creating a summer school. That was also an idea. I hope I covered everything. If not, please jump in.
That's very rich indeed. Thank you
Muito
very
obrigada. Bom ver brasileiras.
So room 4 then. Room 4 as a moderator, maybe?
Yes, I was the moderator, and
Okay.
voilà, Marie-Thérèse, I
Okay,
see she's,
yes.
we were breaking out.
I'm unmuted now. I couldn't find it anymore. Yes, we have also had a very, very interesting discussion with a variety of people. It started and finished with the unions. The discussion started with the unions, the divide between academics and the unions, and that led actually to this divide between what the law and the practices. The practices, you have the laws, and the laws are usually very good, but the practice is totally different. We are taking as an example high-skilled migrants in Europe, for example, but we also had examples on. Well, we had one person from NHS, which is very interesting because they have huge issues at the moment and very burning issues in the UK. The problem is, and I think this is one of the things that came back, is the visibility. Are we visible enough? Are the people visible enough? Do we get to the press? Do we get it with the cases of NHS, of other, divides between law and practice, etc.? Are we loud enough in a certain sense? Yeah.
Thank you, Marie-Thérèse. I'm sorry. I need to.
Time is up.
Time is up. Absolutely.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
That was, yeah.
Super interesting. Certainly only a fraction, but we will read what you covered. Thank you so much. Room 5.
Yeah, I think we're room 5. So the core ideas that we discussed were that firstly, as a network, we need to put across the idea of the importance of work in itself as an important tool for social transformation. And so the meaningfulness of work as a way of empowerment and social transformation needs to be stressed upon more as a network, and we should not forget its importance as a way of enabling people to build a better life. Then we also thought about how do we build better bridges between what the current capitalist economy is and what our ideal is, and so how do we collaborate more with organizations, ground level collectives which are working towards that, how to integrate with the social economy and the objective of making social economy more mainstream. This also includes how we bring field practitioners and research and people who are working on the ground into our discussions and workshops so that we get a more grounded perspective going beyond academia and research, so that how these things are panning out on ground and what are the real life impacts of these. Then finally, from the Indian contingent, we were also proposing to set up a sort of a India and global workshop, international workshop, to talk more about the Indian Employment Guarantee Program.
Thank you, Krishna. Yes. Thank you, Krishna. We are going to have all these ideas in, and then the room 6 spokesperson.
Yes, that will be me.
Okay, class.
Yes, we were a mixed group, as the others were as well, from Germany, Italy, Uganda, Chile, Canada, and France. And we've got some important points. Firstly, that newly formed governments have been a problem here and there. For example, in Germany or Italy, the governments tend to go anti-workers' rights, and that's a problem. And therefore, for example, the decarbonization principle falls back in priority. Regarding other job politics themes. But the other big point we discussed was that the network has a challenge quite everywhere, how we can actually get out of the space of academia into other spaces like unions and all these other spaces that, for example, works very good in Italy, as I've been told. And there were two ideas. One would be to free up people who have not already established a platform of their own, who are not professors in academia or who are not people publishing books already, and somehow freeing them up, maybe with a fund, maybe to do a social media project, for example, with all these connections that we can share, and to find them the time and energy to do so. And the second quick thing is maybe to designate some official ambassadors of the network who have no other purpose than to go right into parties groups, into groups like the unconditional basic income groups, and speak for the network in those cases, because they would listen way more to our ideas if we designated them with the status.
Okay, interesting. Thank you so much. That's very interesting, and we definitely will have we have a lot of work to go through all these ideas. Thank you so much. I think it has been a super encouraging set of discussions, but we need to bring this moment to a close. So be sure the core group will review all these very carefully. The conversations we have today, I think, only affirmed the need to continue our work. We will find more appropriate ways, strengthened by your help, by your involvement. And I want to close then with a hopeful note, another yet very hopeful development. It is a call to action that is, we can say, an offspring of the Democratizing Work Manifesto, and that will be officially released at the end of this month in Spain. So you might remember at the end of the manifesto, there is this sentence that say these 3 principles, they are not new, they are historic, and they are already practiced. It is the field of social economy which contains those practices, those experimentations that best practice the 3 principles. This is a call to action that has been is there for you to read and for you to sign. I signed it myself. I think we should all sign it, and I think we should actually share it as widely as possible. So we are going to include it in our newsletter to invite the whole network to sign it. This is very inspiring because it shows also that 5 years after one thing we did together, we are actually having an impact. And there are so many ways, so many unknown ways through which what we do is going to have an impact in the future. So today we shared inspiring developments. We also know the sobering news of the state of the world. But really, thank you so much to all of you for being here on behalf of the core group. We are going to review all your input and we will be back in touch. So our channel to communicate is really the newsletter. So please make sure your newsletter doesn't go into the spam. And let's be in touch. I want to close by thanking Shantanu from Wage Indicator Foundation and the Wage Indicator Foundation team, who has been a fantastic co-organizer of our global workshop series, and thanking Lee for the special assistant for today's meeting, which has taken some time in the making. And so thank you everyone for your collaboration. It's been a pleasure to be together. And so now on to the next 5 years.